our city. With us today are executive producer of Cobra Kai, director and writer Josh Heald. He's here in person, but we have some virtual guests as well. Executive producer and actor William Zabka. Executive producer and actor Ralph Macchio. And stunt coordinator Ken Bearfield. Nice to see you guys from afar. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
So I think we should begin just with all of you. Jump in as you see fit. But you've lived with these characters for a long time. Ralph and William for a very long time. And you've lived with them on this show for 4 seasons. So as you entered season 4, what was it that you wanted the audience to feel? Where did you want to take them that really is a stark contrast to where Cobra Kai the series began?
Well, I can say we've come a long way. We've done a tournament in the first season. You know, the first season was delivering on the promise of what you want to see in a Karate Kid TV show. You want to see rivalry, you want to see mentorship, you want to see first love, you want to see a karate tournament. And we had a lot to live up to do another one and not feel like we've been here before, here we go again. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as writers, on the actors, on the stunt team to really deliver a season that led up to something that could be as grand and as bombastic and as emotionally invested as you can be in so many different characters in one arena. And that was kind of our big goal we set out for that season.
Ralph, William, do you have a thought on that?
Well, the difference for season 4 being that we had a tournament in season 1. Season 4, it was about the evolution of a lot of these characters, certainly with Johnny and Daniel sort of having to sort of find their way to work and enhance each other within their own differences, you know, and being able to navigate that going forward, as well as what they're all dealing with their own kids and with Johnny with Robbie and Miguel and myself, LaRusso with Samantha. And so there's all these other layers that and that built up to a tournament that was bigger, more intense, more everything. And Josh directed those last 2 episodes, which was just, and it's at the point of our season where we're running out of time and money and somehow deliver on all cylinders. So it was a pretty exciting season emotionally and from a point of rewarding.
Yeah, I ditto all that. End of season 3 was a great moment for Johnny and Daniel bowing together after 30-some years of rivalry and having that moment of coming together. So I know for me, as playing Johnny and Daniel, having to earn that, because these 2 guys, they came together and they bowed, but now they had this whole journey to go to see how they were going to work together, and them training each other and it working and not working, and then them going their different ways. And then basically by the end of season 4, earning that bow again, really in a new way, where they understand each other, working through. So the trajectory of the character in there, that was really rewarding for me and fulfilling. And what I wanted to get across is like, okay, now we bowed, but there's still a lot of differences. So when we tee off at the end of season 4, there's a little more synchronicity between the characters, besides all the bigness of all the other characters and all that else is happening in it. So listen, as far as what we set out to do at the beginning, I don't know that we know that. We just set out to hang on tight and let the writers take us on a journey and deliver it with all our hearts and mind, soul, and body. So that's up to those guys. So we kind of let them take the lead, and as we moved on now into season 5.
It seems like fate wants these 2 guys to be friends, but they fight it so hard it's taken almost 40 years. What do you think about that? They obviously have their differences, and those are always at the fore, but they have come to like each other? Like, what do you say to that?
It's the will they, won't they of the series. You know, we've said that from the beginning. You know, that was
Sam and Diane of Cobra Kai.
They're Sam and Diane, they're Ross and Rachel, but it's, you know, instead of loving, it's fighting and seeing eye to eye. Like, will they will they hash it out? Will they finally see that, they have so much in common? When Allie came back and kind of looked at both of them and said, look at each other, there's so much here. And you have those micro moves, where Johnny calls Daniel. And it's just such a nice gesture that thaws a little bit. And then you have that big thaw at the end of season 3 that Billy was talking about. But there's always setbacks. Every relationship has a rocky path. And at the end of the day, where we live right now with these characters, they still are fairly set in their ways, and they have their own paths and their own mentors that led them there, and a lot left to explore, whether or not they'll be able to fully merge that path for good.
Ken, can you talk to us about the upping the stakes for the fights in season 4, and what you had to build on? Well, you have to keep upping the ante too, don't you?
Of course, it's always it is upping the ante, but it's mainly keeping up with John, Josh, and Hayden. What they give us each season, which is for a stunt coordinator and my stunt team, it's amazing. We love it. I've been with on the show from season 1 all the way to now. On the crease stunt double, so I have fought Ralph and Billy, firsthand, and it's a fun thing to see everyone from the perspective of now stunt coordinating, looking in and kind of seeing their work ethic that I got to see, but in a whole new light now with Billy, Ralph, all the kids, Jacob, Tanner, Mary, Tori, Dallas. I mean, the list goes on and on of just looking back and watching what John, Josh, and Hayden come with us in the script, and then us going as a group, not just me and the stunt team. I mean, it's everyone. It's Ralph, it's Billy, all of us looking at each other going, this is what we have. This is the time that we have to do it. Let's execute it as best we can. And what you see is what you get.
Do you have a favorite particular move from this season, or shot, or sequence?
I wouldn't say move. I would just say, the All Valley tournament, given what we all had to do during the All Valley. I mean, if you looked at our call sheet, it was the entire cast, 2 weeks locked into the high school dojo gym, right? And all just mass chaos from start to finish. And, that would be my favorite move, because I'm so incredibly proud of everyone who came to work that
I can't really sing Ken's praises loud enough, and his fight coordinator, Don Lee. Like, when they came to run stunts for this season, they hit the ground during COVID, just not a hospitable time to be, having people, grappling and hugging each other and rolling around and trying not to get anybody sick. And we fed them this. We are slowly marching toward this giant fight, but on the way there's going to be like 900 other giant fights. And by the time you get there, it's like you're doing your homework the morning of sometimes. And these guys are training actors on one mat while the camera's over here shooting others. Just to make sure everything is super duper precise and exactly the story we want to tell, and they've been just tremendous collaborators.
Watching the tournament was like watching a stunt camp, like stunt fighting. I mean, you have the fight that's being filmed right now, but everywhere there's every fight being choreographed and working out. I mean, every corner in a full room of just people with weapons, and I mean, the oversight in that and the timing of that was something to watch, really. Ralph and I didn't have to fight in that tournament, right, Ralph? So we were on that.
We were thankful to get there. We had our big fight in season 4 in episode 5, sort of the rematch, if you will, from the Karate Kid film. But we didn't approach it really that way. There was a lot of anticipation for what that fight was, and I'm really proud of how we approached it. And it was really, that fight was about 2 guys that had strong beliefs and good intentions, which what they thought was best for their students and the kids as a whole, not even their individual students. And that's what was the driving narrative of that fight. And to also play it as we are today, and not try to do the 18, 20-year-old version. And I think that it really came across terrific. We froze to death. It was freezing when we were in Atlanta, and it was like, our feet were freezing, and it was like 40 degrees, and but you get through it. That's what what makes it work so well is the character, you care about all of these characters, and they're so well drawn by the original writer, Robert Mark Kamen and Avildsen, who made that film, and then today with John, Josh, and Hayden, these characters we care about, and most of them have the good intentions, although they can't get out of their own way, or they bang heads, which is part of the entertainment.
I often find that interesting on the show. The minute you start to really dislike someone, I feel like you show us like something about them that's sympathetic. Like you really make us hate them, and then that's okay. I feel for that guy.
We love, it's not a bait and switch, but we love changing perspective and changing point of view and introducing a character as a antagonist who then can become the protagonist of their own journey. And that's really the hallmark of what we set out to do with Cobra Kai was, when you're looking at this show, it's different from the Karate Kid in the way that we are treating Daniel and Johnny, as these dual protagonists with their own story, their own issues, their own resentments, their own rivalries. And we do that, constantly when you meet a character, like Tori, who comes on and, it's, here comes the bad girl and she's going to get in the midst of everything. But then you begin to find the ways of, kind of unraveling that character and what, can lead somebody to feel that way. And then, when you start thinking about Kreese, it's, how can we redeem somebody whose life is black and white? And it's a great exercise because you start asking those questions and you start answering them with, filling in some of this richness of story. And it's our favorite thing to do.
How do you tackle Kreese then? Because, if you've seen the season, he suffers a wrong.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Somebody you don't like, but something happens to him that's unjust and unfair.
It's his own medicine. We've seen him manipulate. We've seen him lead in a way that is brutal. We've seen him look at life as if it's black and white and winners and losers, and that's all that matters. And, if you look at it through that lens, he got played, he lost. But it's at a moment that we just began to crack the tough shell of his exterior as you see him coaching from the sidelines during the girls' tournament, and you see him not give the no mercy type of advice, and you're wondering, is this the beginning of something that positive that could be happening for Kreese? But then, of course, the moment you show any vulnerability in the Cobra Kai universe, that's when they come for you.
Another thing that's distinctive from the original movies is I feel like there was always humor that was a part of it, but the comedy is much more at the forefront in this story, wouldn't you say? And Ralph and William, I wonder if you could talk about playing that there is something. Is it just more comedic that these two guys are holding onto their grudge after so long, or is that just how it is as you get older? Just things get a little bit funnier when you were young, you were a little more dramatic and intense.
Well, we know them more, and the fact that we, the audience, sit and watch these guys that 3+ decades in are having the same, having their same personality issues and drawing conclusions of what they think the other person is. It becomes comedic, and to want to walk in each other's shoes, which season 4 does, where early on in the season when we train each other in different ways, and Johnny sets Daniel up for the no be there. It sort of throws the Miyagiism right back in his face, and he's got to take on 5 hockey players on his way out. This is, we love to see that because they all have moments where they feel that they're right, and when they're not right, or when they slip a little bit and skin their knees, that's entertainment, and that's humor, and they're locked in their personalities, which is we've grown up with in a way.
Yeah, the premise is absurd in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like 2 football players that had a game in high school and they can't get over it. 30 years later, they're driving the Valley in with them, and they're so
want that trophy.
To what they're visiting on the Valley. They're so passionate about their own journey. Listen, comedy is tragedy plus time. And certainly where we pick up Johnny at the beginning of the first season is funny to look at. You see a guy that you hated or loved to hate, and now he's this guy. The comedy as it's written, I mean, there's obviously a lot of just funny lines. I mean, we all have these funny lines, I think, but it's not a comedy in the sense you want to play the humor, that you play it with heart and you play it straight, and it's just funny. It's just organically funny. So yeah, it's that was one of the things when they pitched it to me first. I mean, I love Josh, knew Josh. We did Hot Tub Time Machine. He cast me as a little part on that. Yay, Rick Steelman, and John and Hayden. I knew them from Harold and Kumar, and I met the guys, and they were these comedy writers and these kind of cutting edge kind of more adult comedy. So when they pitched Cobra Kai, I'm like, what's the tone in this, and where's the funny, and where's the heart? And they just had it all. And they're writing it, and we're doing it, and it's good that it gets a laugh. But when we're playing it, it doesn't feel funny. I know for me, when I'm playing stuff that comes off and it is funny, it's mostly painful to say, mostly painful to do. And I fight it sometimes tooth and nail, and then I watch it after 6 months being away and go, it's really fun. So, really. One time, I mean, I remember Hayden. There was a scene in the first episode, the first season, where Miguel comes back in and we toast, and I give him some alcohol, and then we're supposed to say we're getting into the tournament, and Hayden comes around from the monitor and he says, he's going to ask you, is it okay to drink this, and is it good for you? And yeah, it's good for you. And then he goes, and tell him, it's going to put hair in your balls. And I'm like, come on, man. This is a great, sweet moment. Like, do I have to say that, but played with heart and everything? I think it's one of the funniest things that I've ever said, and that was written off camera by one of the writers who so they got it, man. They got it. It's fine. We're doing our thing and bringing our instruments to it, and they know how to play them.
Yeah, because the thing that's interesting, I mean, it's unique about this is we're so protective of these characters. We've walked in these shoes for 36 years or whatever, my math, whether it's failing or not, but it's been a long time. And so we've walked in it from two totally different perspectives. So when we see something that the guys write or lay out that feels like that's not the direction I think this would be, it's about, challenging to find the ways that's truthful in the Cobra Kai world. And if it's not even necessarily where I think it would have gone for Daniel LaRusso at that point, I then begin to see where it works in this world. And sometimes it requires some letting go. And then there's redemption down the line 4 episodes later that I didn't think I was going to get when I was protective of a certain moment that I was unsure of. So it's all part of that creative process, and we all really work hard at that, push-pull and sort of collaborating to bring the most pastels to all these colors, or the most strings to all the percussion, so the performances have that.
Yeah, it's a real process. I mean, the guys and I, John and Hayden, my co-creators, we have such a reverence for the Karate Kid, and we don't want to break it. It's like we're holding this thing that they let out, of our favorite museum, and we're allowed to play with this, and we can change it, and we can build it, and we can, and Ralph and Billy have such a love and a dedication to the legacy of these characters, and what was real, and so we're always talking about what's canon, what's real, what's honest, what's an evolution, and yeah, we like to write things that challenge them and challenge their idea of where the dots went, that they began to connect the future, and sometimes we're on the same wavelength, and sometimes we're ahead of them, and sometimes they're ahead of us, and it's a great collaboration because they care so much, and that's everything you want. It's wonderful.
Ken, I want to close with you as the stunt coordinator, as the person who's intimately involved in arranging these fights and the moves and all the things that the actors bring to the screen. Can you say, what is it about the fighting styles, let's say between Daniel and Johnny, that really reveals character?
Well, I know I owe a lot of that to my fight coordinator, Don Lee. He's so dialed in with each specific type of martial arts, but Billy's martial arts and Ralph's martial arts, they're very deep into, you know, kind of what Josh was talking about with his, like, what was set back in Karate Kid 1, right? And then so whenever we come, especially with something for Billy and Ralph, we walk up to Billy and Ralph. We're like, hey, we're John and Josh and Hayden, they have this written down in the script. What would your character do? And it's, you know, they have an infinite amount of knowledge of their character for where they've been and where they're going. And then plus with John, Josh, and Hayden, it's such a collaborative effort with everything. And then I just kind of make sure that what John, Josh, and Hayden are saying, what Billy and Ralph, and what they're saying, what their characters do, line that up with my fight coordinator, Don Lee. And then we just kind of make sure that Ralph is Miyagi-Do. We make sure that Billy is Cobra Kai when it needs to be, or Eagle Fang, and which is a whole other ball of wax. That's a little bit of what we call Billy Badass mixed with Cobra Kai, because you know how Billy is. He's not just going to stay that way. He's going to kind of find his own way to do it with what he knows. And so it's a nice ballet of, you know, all the heads coming together and making sure that what we put on screen is exactly what we were thinking about.
What we love doing is writing the emotional story of each point, of each hit. Anytime anybody's getting kicked or hit, or falling down or doing the kicking or hitting, there's an emotional story that we're telling. So we try to tell that through the script. We try to, you know, meet with Ken and Don offline also and talk about, you know, forget the rest of the episode. Let's just talk about this fight as a 3-act story. And like he said, you know, then Ken and Don talk about the Tang Soo Do versus Goju Ryu and, you know, Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai influences, and make it real and, you know, make it honest. And sometimes that's challenging us, as, you know, your 3-act story has 4 acts, and sometimes it just works out perfectly and it was meant to be. But it's always fun.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Good luck on the next season, and yeah, thank you. Let's hear it for Field, Ken Bearfield, William Zabka, and Ralph Macchio, the Cobra Kai team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.